Scarlett Johansson had always felt trapped in the mundane routine of her life. Ohio was dull, predictable, and suffocating. She spent her days working on small indie films, hoping for something bigger, but never quite getting there. That was until she met Naomi Thomas, a lanky, awkward man with a deep love for stargazing and an even deeper knack for getting under her skin. From the very first moment, Scarlett found Naomi insufferable. He was a cleaner, barely making ends meet, yet he spoke about the universe like he had it all figured out. His peculiar habits, his stubborn optimism, it all drove her crazy. And yet, there was something oddly captivating about him. One evening, as Scarlett walked home through a dimly lit park, she felt a strange presence behind her. Before she could turn, a massive tiger leaped from the shadows, its golden eyes locked onto her. Panic surged through her veins, but before she could scream, Naomi appeared out of nowhere, wielding nothing but a flashlight and sheer audacity. "Back off, buddy!" Naomi shouted, shining the light directly into the tiger's eyes. The beast hesitated, growled, and after a tense moment, slunk back into the darkness. Scarlett, still trembling, stared at Naomi, dumbfounded. You just what?" she stammered, struggling to find the right words. Naomi shrugged, a crooked smile playing on his lips. Tigers hate bright lights. Thought everyone knew that. Scarlett had never been more confused in her life. Why would a simple cleaner know how to fend off a wild animal? And why did her heart race every time he looked at her with those starry eyes? Despite herself, she found her perspective shifting. Naomi, with all his quirks and unpredictability, wasn't just an annoying distraction anymore. He was intriguing, noble even. But Naomi, oblivious to her growing admiration, remained lost in his world of constellations and dreams, never once noticing how Scarlett looked at him differently now. Frustrated, she threw herself into reading, searching for an escape from the whirlwind of emotions Naomi stirred in her. Books became her solace, a distraction from the undeniable truth she was falling for a man who didn't even realize it. And then, just when she thought things couldn't get more complicated, Officer Mike Jolie entered the picture. Spiteful, relentless, and with a personal vendetta against Naomi, he seemed determined to drive a wedge between them. Naomi had to act fast. But was he even aware that Scarlett was waiting for him to see what had been in front of him all along? To be continued. Naomi had never been one to believe in fate, but after the tiger incident, he started to wonder if the universe had a twisted sense of humor. One minute, he was just a simple cleaner with a love for the stars, and the next, he was inexplicably tangled in Scarlett Johansson's life. Scarlett, on the other hand, was struggling with feelings she didn't want to acknowledge. She convinced herself that her newfound fascination with Naomi was nothing more than curiosity. Yet, every time she saw him, she felt a pull, something magnetic, something undeniable. But before she could make sense of it all, Officer Mike Jolie turned her world upside down. Mike had a reputation for being ruthless, and for some reason, he had made Naomi his personal target. Maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was something deeper, but whatever it was, Scarlett could see it in his eyes whenever Naomi was around. One evening, as Scarlett sat outside a local cafe, lost in thought, she heard the sound of an argument. Looking up, she spotted Naomi and Mike in a heated exchange across the street. She couldn't hear everything, but Naomi's usual easygoing demeanor was gone. His hands were clenched into fists, his jaw tight. "You don't belong here, Thomas," Mike sneered. "People like you never do." Scarlett felt a surge of anger rise in her chest. Without thinking, she got up and marched over to, "What's your problem, Mike?" she demanded. Mike turned to her, an almost amused expression on his face. "Stay out of this, Scarlett. You don't know who you're dealing with." Scarlett didn't back down. "Oh, you don't know who you're dealing with. Naomi saved my life. What have you done lately?" Naomi looked at her, startled by her defense. He had spent so much time thinking she found him irritating. Why was she standing up for him now? Mike scoffed but didn't push further. "Just watch yourself, Thomas," he muttered before walking away. Scarlett turned to Naomi, expecting him to say something, but he just looked at her, his eyes searching hers for answers she wasn't sure she had. Finally, he sighed. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," she replied, "because I don't like bullies." Naomi smiled, small, fleeting, but real. "You're something else, Scarlett." For the first time in a long time, Scarlett felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, and as Naomi gazed up at the stars, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, the universe had brought them together for a reason after all. Scarlett didn't know exactly what had changed in Naomi, but she was sure of one thing: something was different. Mike Jolie's looming presence was still a shadow over them, but Scarlett was no longer willing to let Naomi face it alone. That night, unable to sleep, she grabbed her phone and sent a message without overthinking it. "Are you awake?" A reply came almost instantly. "Always." A few minutes later, they met at a quiet cafe. Naomi looked as calm as ever, but Scarlett could sense something hidden beneath the surface. "You need to stay away from Mike," Scarlett said, sipping her coffee. Naomi shrugged. "Are you trying to scare me?" "No, but I know there's a reason he hates you. We need to figure out what it is." Naomi stared at her for a moment, then sighed and looked up at the sky. "He knows me from the past, but I don't remember him." Scarlett frowned. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, but something feels off." Just then, the atmosphere in the cafe shifted. A heavy silence settled over the room. Someone had just walked in, and their presence changed everything. Mike Jolie. Scarlett felt a chill run down her spine. Mike's eyes locked onto Naomi immediately, and with a smirk, he walked straight to their table. Leaning down, he spoke in a low, almost amused voice. "Your past is going to catch up with you, Thomas. Be ready." And just like that, he walked away as if nothing had happened. Scarlett and Naomi exchanged a glance. They both knew this was only the beginning. Naomi watched as Mike disappeared into the night, his words echoing in his head. "Your past is going to catch up with you." But what past? His life had always been simple cleaning jobs, stargazing, and scraping by. There was nothing remarkable about him. Except, deep down, he knew that wasn't entirely true. Scarlett could see the storm in his eyes. "Naomi, what aren't you telling me?" He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know, but I have to find out." 2 nights later, Scarlett and Naomi stood outside an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was a place Naomi didn't recognize, but something about it felt wrong, like a memory just out of reach. Mike was already there, waiting. "I knew you'd come," he said, stepping forward. "Figured you'd want answers." Naomi clenched his fists. "Enough with the games. Just tell me." Mike smirked. "Fine. You used to work for me." Scarlett's eyes widened. "What?" Naomi shook his head. "That's impossible. I've never." "Think harder," Mike interrupted. "You weren't just some cleaner, Naomi. You worked for a group that stole information. You wiped traces of people, erased them. And then one day you vanished." Naomi felt the world tilt beneath him. Flashes of something, hands typing, files disappearing, a whispered name, Thomas. "I don't remember any of that," he admitted, his voice hollow. Mike shrugged. "Convenient, isn't it? But whether you remember or not, the people you ran from haven't forgotten. And they're coming." Scarlett stepped in front of Naomi. "That if that's true, then why are you here? Why warn him?" Mike hesitated before answering. "Because I don't want them to get to him first." The words sent a cold shiver down Naomi's spine. Scarlett grabbed his arm. "We need to leave. Now." Naomi nodded. Whatever was coming for him, he wasn't going to wait around to find out. As they disappeared into the night, only one thing was certain: this wasn't just about the past anymore. This was about survival. The end. Don't miss this gripping cinematic story full of suspense, mystery, and jaw-dropping twists. Subscribe for more thrilling stories. Hit the notification bell